Welcome back, everyone, to this episode. Excuse our hiatus. They seem to happen intermittently. This week, we all finally saw Better Late Than Never. That's not the movie. The movie was Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I don't know why I had a massive pause there. I just didn't think of anything else to say. Black Panther Wakanda Forever. It was fine. Payson, your guess on my assumption was right. I thought it was pretty mid. It wasn't, again, Marvel shot themselves in the foot with the Infinity War saga. It's going to be very hard to match up that kind of progression until they really get the ball moving on the Secret Wars saga. Other than that, as standalone, it's pretty good. Better than a lot of the more recent Marvel projects. Very long. I'm not a fan of very long movies. I get antsy. It was a very good funeral for Chadwick Boseman. Out of the handful of ways they could have handled that in the movie, I thought this one was fine. I'm just not really addressing it all too much, other than the fact that Black Panther had passed for some reason and not really delving into it. I feel like his character deserves a little bit more than that, but I can understand why they did the way they did, taking this movie as more of an in memoriam. Yeah, the action was pretty decent. The CGI was pretty decent. I really liked the acting. I really liked getting to see more of characters that we've had in the past and haven't gotten the chance to see more of, such as M'Baku and Shuri and the mother. And definitely Ross. I really like Agent Ross's character. He's fun, but I also really like Martin Short. So other than that, the story was fine. As far as plot goes, I think it is a nothing movie where all that much really happens between the introduction of the conflict and the resolution of the conflict. Nothing else much changes other than we kind of spoiler alert, but not really get a new Black Panther. Nothing major changes in the world. Nothing super major changes for most of the characters. Other than that, decently enjoyable, a solid. If I'm putting it up against all the other movies, solid Marvel movies, a 6. Um, as a movie on its own, 6.5, reaching for a 7, just because it was really long and it dragged at a lot of times.
Yeah, I'll have to agree. The movie dragged on. It had quite a few dead spots for me where I was just uninterested. That was the biggest downfall, in my opinion, for this movie. There were just a lot of points where they could have cut out a little bit to make the movie shorter, but other than that, it was just a really long, uninteresting movie to me. It didn't have really any progression in the Marvel storyline, which is what we all kind of need at this point to kind of have Marvel get some groundwork for what they're planning. Otherwise, people are just going to stop watching them and they're going to lose money. And this movie just didn't really give any information on a future. It was kind of an ending, a beginning and an ending. An ending for Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther, and then a beginning for I can't think of the actress's name.
Letitia Wright.
Yeah, thank you. Of her being Black Panther. But even with that, I don't see them using her character all that often. But then again, we don't know much of the direction they're going with the future of the Marvel franchise. So I'm not really sure how they're going to use some of these new characters they've introduced and brought back. And that's the biggest thing this movie didn't help explain. And with that, I'd give this movie probably like a 4.5, mostly because it was just really long, uninteresting, and it just I was just distracted most of the way through it from it being so long. Like Andrew said, I get antsy when I have to sit through a movie that long. It needs to be very upfront, in your face, and entertaining for me to stay focused with it, and it just wasn't.
Like Elvis, like it had things going. It was more, I guess, choppy. Um,
Yeah,
and the
but
scenes were
that's kind of
shorter,
what you
and
expect
so
for like a documentary type thing.
So Elvis held my attention more. This one had much longer scenes.
Yes. And that was its biggest downfall, in my book.
I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 10. As you guys have both stated, this movie really does nothing. If you watch the trailer, that's about you get about as much information that as the movie gives. So it really does nothing for any of the characters, any of the that it really does nothing for any of the characters that are brought in. You never get to see any character progressions or anything like that. You never care about the character motivations that they have in this film. Um, Ironically, the character that I hated the least was the character I was not really wanting to be in this at all was well, besides Martin Short's character, was Ironheart, because she really was never explained. Nothing ever really. So she was just there,
To be
and
honest, I completely forgot about her.
that made me not hate her, in all honesty, or that made me not like her character at all. No, I didn't really care about her character, much like Martin Short's character. I was at the point where I was like, why are they there in the film in the first place, to some extent. But yeah, I think this film has a problem of already having a script done and then needing to redo it, since they once going to recast T'Challa after Chadwick Boseman's passing, and they decided not to. And that's what this film seems to have the problem of, if I had to guess. I think it's I said it when I think I said it to either uh Zach or you, Andrew, when it first when the trailer first dropped and we talked about it on Unrestrained. That it seemed like it was
Mhm.
just when they were just doing lip service for Chadwick Boseman's passing. I thought it was just essentially just a cheap way to get people to get seats filled. Just a cheap way to get seats filled. It wasn't really gonna. It was just lip service. I thought it was just in bad taste, as it does disservice to the character by trying to tie him in with Chadwick Boseman instead of making him his own character, instead of just making him not connected to, I guess, this world, which is kind of what they try to do with tying both T'Challa and Chadwick Boseman as the same, kind of the same person, I guess, is what they kind of did.
Yeah.
That's seen throughout the film with
Mhm.
how he, and especially towards the end, where like it's said that she could have saved him if he was if she had told him, which makes him seem like why not tell somebody that you're gonna die? Doesn't make any, especially if you know they can save you. And also the fact that he left his son and wife for no apparent reason other than to just, I guess, just die off. So it makes him seem like a prick
Well,
of a
that
dad, if that
that
makes sense.
part with him leaving that yeah, that part
That
was
makes him seem
slightly
like a.
explained that he didn't want his son in the political aspect
I get
because
that,
with
but
his
if
death he was next in line for king.
that's true, however, it doesn't make sense as to, if you have your son and you don't, and you want to be around, it just makes him seem like a prick of a dad, because it makes him seem like he doesn't want to be a part of his son's life, if that makes sense.
Well,
Mhm.
I mean, I suppose, but also you got to think because the whole snap situation, they're not it's
I get
being
that,
messed
but they're
around. They can't work.
true, but
Um,
they're also being fast and loose with the snap, as in like a um in Hawkeye. I don't think they know what to do. I don't think they know how to appropriately use the 5 year timeline gap, as Hawkeye kind of does the has like present day, when has the present day pop up at the beginning, and this is just the best example I can think of. Has the present day pop up in the beginning, and then the you get to see Clint Barton and his family. Well, his family was taken away during the snap, and if it was during present day, that would be when, like, present day when the show came out. That would be when the snap occurred. So, and it's never explained other
mm,
than that. So it doesn't make much sense. in that
Yeah.
aspect, and it's just a relative inconsistency with the snap, if that makes sense. So this happening, I like to give them benefit of the doubt, but the way that they've handled the rest of the MCU, they're way past that in my opinion at this point.
I
So
think a really good way they could have also done this would be one, uh, get permission from Chadwick Boseman's family to try to see if they could do like a short, like even if it's just like 2-3 minutes, CGI him into the movie to have like some sort of like this is a reason why he's leaving or whatever. I
mhm.
think the best place they could have done it was when she was becoming the Black Panther and she had to go into the is it the ancestral realm or what is that
Ancestral realm, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
and
and she would talk to Chadwick Boseman's instead of Killmonger.
yeah,
That was something I really disliked about the whole movie was that was the person she saw.
mhm.
It just it it really confused me on just what type of Black Panther she was going to be then, if that's who she saw and not her brother
Yeah,
or like her father. I thought that would have been a nice one as well.
yeah. Well, it's just this whole movie seemed off and weird just by certain things that happened, and like CGI wasn't the greatest in this film. Acting wasn't always the greatest. It was all over the place. So, but ironically, not one of the worst in this MCU phase. So, and thank goodness this phase is over. So
We
this
got
is this is
Quantumania coming up next.
this is definitely the most bland phase I think's ever been in
You've
Marvel.
always got you've always got one thing in like a book series, one book that's kind of just bland. And so
Yeah,
let's hope that this is that and the next phase is picking back up speed.
I get that, but
That's
if we're treating
yeah, but
every movie like a book, and every phase is like its own book series to a certain extent, this was an entire bland book
yeah,
series
yeah,
if you want to go that route. Nothing
yeah,
really happens, and basically what Andrew said earlier just described this movie, kind of describes the whole phase in both show and movies. Like if you went to do nothing except maybe watch the trailers, you'd probably know about as much of it. You'd know about as much about this phase as if you had went and gone and watched the movies themselves and shows.
yeah.
So I mean,
I mean, this is, I would say, two or rank 2 or 3 out of the 7 movies that came out for this, for the phase.
I know that's I'm not
Yeah.
saying like I'm not saying it's probably one of the better ones for the phase.
Do you want to
In
hear the
all
phase?
honesty, uh, well, I mean, I don't
I
have.
will.
I mean, I will. I guess I just
I
We
have
we
to.
could
if
do
I
we could
if
do a we could do a ranking or a tier list.
I just don't like the way that they seem to, at least in the first couple trailers, try to guilt people into watching this movie because Chadwick Boseman died, and also don't like the fact that despite Chadwick Boseman's family saying that Chadwick Boseman would like to have this character be more than just him, and if he was to die, he would have said, if he was still here and he was ill and couldn't have done the movie, he would have said cast somebody else regardless. So, I mean, I just don't. It's a problem on many different fronts that if we wanted to do an unrestrained on it, just specifically on this movie, we definitely could do it. At least one, if not more, on this movie in specific, if we wanted to get into specifics. But yeah, and I'm doing a 3 out of 10 because I haven't seen the movie in a while and it's that forgettable. And
Fair.
the parts I do remember are basically asinine and leave a bad taste in my mouth. So
To be honest, I completely forgot Ironheart was in the movie until you brought it up.
I didn't, only because
Ironheart was
of
one of my favorite parts of the movie. I've been looking.
yeah.
They've been teasing Ironheart for what, 3 years now?
Well, what I'd rather like them to
Yeah,
do, now
they
this is
have.
just me, I would rather them take that kid in Iron Man 3 and make him the new Iron Man. That would be an actual something that'd be fun to see, but in my opinion, but I don't know. It could just be me.
Well, thank you all for sticking around watching this video, and hopefully the next video we have will come out sooner than this one did. So join us next week for our review over the new Avatar movie.